Hello, grade twos. Today is Thursday, and we have finished talking about fractions, and we are now going to move to time. And in your package, I gave you 2 clocks, okay? And in your package, you have this clock, which is called a geared clock, and I also have this clock. So I'm just going to share briefly. This one, you can't move the little red hand. You can only move the blue one, okay? Which will help us to understand how the red hand, the small hand, moves around. But you can also use this one because you can move both of these hands on these clocks yourself, okay? So just try to be careful with these ones and don't try to move this hand because it doesn't move. But we are going to start with how we measure time in the day, okay? And we have 2 things. We have the small, and these are called hands, right? Can you say hands? Say small hand. And the small hand tells us the hour, okay? So if the small hand was at 1, I know the hour is 1. The long hand is the minute hand. Can you say minute? If the minute hand is up at the 12, this is what we would call 1 o'clock. So think of when it's at the 12 that it's at 0. Okay, 0 minutes have passed. It's exactly 1 o'clock. Okay, so as these hands. Now, as this hand moves around, you're going to notice as it moves around, as the minute hand moves all the way around, and when it gets back up to the 12 again, we've got to the next hour. So for the minute hand to go all the way around is 1 hour. Now I want you to think about something in our school day that would take us 1 hour to realize how long is 1 hour. Well, during your lunchtime when I leave and you eat your lunch in the classroom and you head outside for recess, that is 1 full hour from eating your lunch and enjoying recess until you come back in for the afternoon. So that's what 1 hour feels like. What about when our minute hand, our long hand, just moves 1? When it moves 1 minute. Who can think of something that we do near the beginning of this school day that's 1 minute long? Your math facts, yes. So your math facts are 1 minute, okay? And that's kind of, I wanted to get you to remember how long 1 minute feels versus how long 1 hour feels, okay? So we've got our minute, like our math minute that I use the stopwatch for, and an hour is like our time to eat and go outside for our lunch break, okay? So we've got our hour hand and we've got our minute hand. Now, you're going to notice that when the hour hand points to the number, that tells us the hour. But what happens when the minute hand points to the number? Well, I told you when it's at the top, it's 0 minutes. But you'll notice, and this is where I would like you to get out your clocks. And if you have to, keep spinning around until you get to 1 o'clock. Or what do I have mine at? I have mine at 2 o'clock. So press pause if you need to, and keep spinning it around until you get to 2 o'clock. Okay, so I want everyone to have their clock set at 2. And I want us to think of when our minute hand, the blue hand, when it goes over to the 1, how many minutes have gone by? Well, if you can look, there are little dots that tell us how many minutes. So when it goes, each dot is 1 minute. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when the minute hand gets to the next number, it's moved 5 minutes. So if we want our minute hand to go around, we can count by 5s, which you know how to do because we've been doing our 5 times tables. So we have 5, and then you can move it again to the 2 is 10, 15, move it with me, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and when it it gets back up again, it's 60 or it's 0. We don't ever would write 60 minutes. We would just say that it's back at, now it's at the next hour. It's 3 o'clock when it's at the 12. Okay? Now on your little clocks, you'll notice it kind of helps you. It has the 5, 10, 15, 20 to help guide you. Okay? So you can use both of those clocks to help you remember when the hour hand hits the number, it's the hour, but the minute hand, we're actually going to count by 5s. And you'll see that's on my clock as well. So what I would like everyone to do is I'm going to set my clock to a new time. I want you to look up here and tell me, what time is this? Who can tell me what time this is? This is the little hand, the hour hand is 6, and the minute hand's at the 12. That is 6 o'clock. Or sometimes you might just say it's 6. And if I want to write that, I'm going to do a 6. Okay, do we see that? Okay, so that is 6. And then there is, we're going to do, remember, our 2 dots there. Okay, and this is to show, separate our hours and our minutes. And then we have 0 minutes. It's at the 12. So we're going to put 0, 0. And that's how we would write. If we want to write it in words, we write 6 o'clock. Okay? That we would move to 6 o'clock. Okay? Or sometimes we might just say it's 6. Okay? Now, I want you to get 6 o'clock on your clock. So press pause if you need to. We left off at 3 here. So let's keep going around a little bit till we get to 6 o'clock. Okay. Now on your clocks, I want you to follow with me. Is I want you to move our minute hand to the 1. Who can tell me what time is it now? What would I write up here? Well, my hour is still at the 6, but how many minutes have gone by if it's went over to the 5? How many minutes has gone, or sorry, the 1? How many minutes has gone by? Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, each number is 5. So it is, say it with me, 6:05. And that's how we would write it down. We would write 6:05. Or we could say it's 5 minutes past 6, right? Because it's not 6 o'clock anymore. It's 5 minutes past 6. Okay, so 6:05 or 5 minutes past 6. And because there's no 10s, we just are keeping a 0 there. Okay, with your clocks, I want you to move your minute hand to the 2. What time would that be? Well, remember we count by 5s. 5, it'd be 6:10, right? So now my hour stays the same, and I'm going to write 6:10. Okay, let's keep going. The next one, if I move it with me, move yours to the 3, it would be 6, 5, 10, 15. 6:15. Now there's some key ones I want us to remember, so I'm going to leave them up there. So 6:15. What about if I move to the next one? Say it with me. It would be 6:20. And move yours to the 5. It would be, what time would it be? 6:25. Move it down to the 6. When it gets down, it's done half of a circle. Remember from our fractions, this is half of the circle. Okay? And the halfway point, because there's 60 minutes in an hour, the halfway is 30. So we can remember whenever it gets to the 6, it's the 30. So this is 6:30. Okay? And it helps us because then we don't have to start by up here counting by 5s. If we can remember, the 3 is the 15 because that's going to be 1/4 of the circle. Do you remember our fractions? Right? I'm going to go back a little bit here. This to over here is 1/4 of the circle. Okay? Then we're going to go down here to 6:30. Okay, keep moving with me. The next one would be 6:35. Move to the next one. What would that be? 6:40. Move to the next one. Count another 5. 6:45. This is another one to remember because this is another quarter from the top, right? So we have the quarter after when it gets to the 3, but when it gets to the 9, you can also, sometimes people say it was quarter to 7. It's not 7 yet, but it's only a quarter left to get to 7, okay? And that is 6:45. And if you remember, the 9 gets us to 45. You're also going to remember the 5 times tables. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 9 is 45. So the minute is 45. You can think of the 5 times tables too instead of counting up each time, okay, that we've got there. So we've got 6:45, or we've got quarter to 7 is what we can say. Keep going to the next one. 6:45, the next one would be 6:50. The next one after, 6:55. And when we get to the top, do we say 6:60? No. When the minute hand gets to the 12, it's now 7 o'clock. Remember, the 12 is always going to be 00 for the minutes. Okay? It's o'clock that we have gone all the way around. Okay? So we have, remembering the 3 is always the 15. We can also call it quarter after because it's a quarter of the circle. The 30, or the 6 is always 30, which is half of it. So we say 6:30 or half past. Then we come up to the 9. Well, remember that is 45. And we can say quarter to the next hour is sometimes what we call it. Okay? And then when we get to the top, it's always 0 minutes and it's o'clock. Okay? So I'm going to put some times on the board, and I want you to set your clock to that time. Can you do that? So I'll write a time, and I want you to take your minute, and I want you to set the time. Okay? So can you set your clock to 2:15, please? I want you to set your clock to 2:15, please. Okay. So yeah, remember, I have to keep moving the minute hand, the blue hand, around to get to where you want. So I'm going to get to my 2 o'clock, and then I know it's 15 minutes. So I can count by 5s. 5, 10, 15. And that is what 2:15 looks like. Okay? Now, can you do 4:35? Can you set your clock to 4:35? Okay. So keep turning there. And I keep going till I hit I get at 4 o'clock. Okay, so everyone at 4 o'clock. And then let's count by 5s to get to 35. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And remember, the 7 is 35. So that is my 4:35. Okay? So in your workbook today, you're going to do exercise 46. And the first thing you're going to do is mark counting by 5s all around to then find out how many minutes after 2 o'clock is it. And you're going to do the same thing over here on this page. Okay? And then there's a couple more pages. You're going to match the time and the clock, and under these ones, you're just going to write the time, just like we've done up here. Okay? So have fun telling what time it is.